Good morning. Welcome to the UU Church of the South Hills, also known as Sunnyhill. We're delighted that you could join us for this service. Our mission at Sunnyhill is to create a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. My name is Maddie Sunaway, and I serve as a worship associate for this congregation. If you're a newcomer or visitor to our congregation, please go to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says New to Sunnyhill to receive more information about our congregation and to receive our weekly email newsletter. Also, if you'd like to be greeted as a newcomer after the service, please take a red mug, and members will seek you out to make sure you are warmly welcomed. If you're joining us online today, please say hello or good morning on the comments in Facebook or YouTube. We'd like to hear from you and extend a welcome to you as well. We welcome children of all ages to our service. For quiet play, we have a children's area here in the sanctuary. For louder activities, we have a nursery just outside the corner entrance to the sanctuary. We also have a comfort room accessible through the back hallway from which you can hear and see the service. A gentle reminder to everyone, please silence your cell phones and other electronic devices so that we can enjoy the service uninterrupted by buzzing or ringing. Today's sermon is titled, Why I Am a Christian and a Humanist and Maybe a Heretic. As Unitarian Universalists, we arrive at our own beliefs and religious identities through what Ralph Waldo Emerson called life passed through the fire of thought. In this sermon, Reverend McGaw will explore his own faith, life, fire, and thought. Our opening words were written by Barbara Hamilton Hallway. We gather here as individual people, young and old, temporarily able and disabled, theist, atheist, agnostic, Christian, Buddhist, humanist, Jewish, Hindu, Muslim. We gather here as a community of people who are more than categories. We gather here, each ministering to the other, meeting one another's strength, encouraging wholeness. We give thanks for this extraordinary blessing, the gathering together of separate, unique individuals as one whole, one body, our church. Here may our minds stretch, our hearts open, our spirits deepen. Here may we acknowledge our brokenness and be ever stirred by love's infinite possibilities. Come, let us worship. Please join me in saying the words for lighting our chalice. We ignite this flame, symbol of our faith, to beckon us into community, warm our hearts with love, and give us a light to follow as we carry our faith into action.
Good morning. Please rise in body and or spirit and join in singing our hymn, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Come thou fount of every blessing, tune our hearts to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. While the hope of life's perfection fills our hearts with joy and love, teach us ever to be faithful. May we still thy goodness prove. Come thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of war fall silent, feel our love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Come thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways. Lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise this day. Help us bind ourselves in union. Help our hands tell of our love. With thine aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above. Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning, friends. If there are any kiddos present that want to come up for our time for all ages, now is your chance. Good morning, friends. It's always fun to see y'all walk in here on Sunday mornings. We always start off slow, and it'll be like, ooh, it'll be quiet today. There's only 2 kids. And then suddenly I blink, and all of you come up to the front. It's amazing. Thank you for being here. All right, here's our story. The word gospel means good news. So when we talk about the Gospels of the Christian Bible, we're talking about the books that share the good news about a man named Jesus who lived a long time ago. But what was this good news that Jesus shared? Jesus lived at a time when life was really hard for many people. The world was often unfair and unkind. One of those Gospels, the Gospel of Mark, tells us that Jesus preached a message of love and justice. It tells stories of how Jesus stood up for people who were left out, how he cared for those in need, and how he welcomed everyone. Here's one story from the Gospel of Mark. One day, a man asked Jesus, "What is the most important rule of all?" Jesus answered, "The most important rule is to love God with all your heart and mind, and the second is to love your neighbor as yourself." Let's talk about what that means. First, love God with all your heart and mind. Well, first, who or what is God? That's something that people understand in lots of different ways. So if you believe that God is in nature, then loving God might mean protecting the earth. If you believe that God is a great creator, then it might mean caring for everything in creation. If you believe that God is in our relationships, then loving God might mean being kind and connecting to others. The second part, love your neighbor as yourself. This part might sound simple, but it's something we have to practice every day. Jesus didn't say, love only your family, or only the people who are easy to love. He said to love your neighbor, and that can mean anyone. It could be someone who lives nearby or far away, someone who speaks a different language, someone you've never met, someone who thinks differently than you do. Then Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. So what does that mean? How do you show love to yourself? It could be eating good, healthy foods that help you grow, to rest when you're tired, to try to learn new things, or to ask for help when you need it. So loving our neighbors means that we want those good things for them too, and we'll work to make sure that they have those good things just like we do for ourselves. So in this story, Jesus teaches us that the most important rule is to love God and to love others as ourselves. That means taking care of the world, of one another and ourselves. In other words, love is something we do every day when we show up for others and our world. And today, we're going to be learning more about how we show up to love our environment and all of the creation around us. So we are going to be heading outside together for class. So once we get to the hallway, we're gonna all wait together and go where we need to go together. Okay? Sound good? Let's sing the kiddos out.
As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. as you go, as you go, as you go, may joy as you go, as you go. People get ready, there's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. People get ready for the train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key, open the doors and more than there's room for all among the love the most. There ain't no room for the hopeless sinner who would hurt all mankind just to save his own. Have pity on those whose chances are thinner, 'cause there's no hiding place from the kingdom's throne. So people get ready for the train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. You just thank the Lord. You just thank the Lord.
Good morning. My name is Jean Ferland, and I am short. I'm also a member of our pastoral care team. As a reminder of why we're here, to support you when you're going through a crisis, to comfort you when you are grieving, to support friends and family involved in caregiving, and to maintain contact with those unable to attend church due to illness or disability. We will sit with you when you're in need of a listening ear, sharing a concern with another who listens without advice or judgment is, I believe, in keeping with the worth and dignity of every person. So, should you feel like talking, reach out to a member of the pastoral care team. For questions, contact Reverend Jim or a member of the team. You can submit a Joy or Sorrow on Sunnyhill's website or by filling out a form on the desk in the foyer. After each joy or sorrow that I read, please respond by saying, "We hold you in our hearts." First, a general sorrow. To the families suffering losses due to the devastating floods in central Texas, we hold you in our hearts. A sorrow from Chris Simsick. She said last week, my nephew Greg suffered a thyroid storm that has affected all of his organs, especially his heart. He is in ICU. As of today, the report is that he's not doing well. He is a newlywed and the father of a 5-month-old baby. And sadly, yesterday, another submission came in from Chris saying, profound sorrow. My nephew passed away this morning. To Chris and to Greg's family, we hold you in our hearts. And a joy from Mary Pratt. She says, I'm away enjoying some adventurous vacation time with family. We've been hiking and spending time with wildlife in Alaska, a trip we started planning during the COVID lockdown. We still have a few more adventures ahead of us, but I look forward to being back next Sunday with y'all. To the Pratt family, we hold you in our hearts. And a joy/sorrow from Karen Neller. She says, Richard Neller, now age 95, has moved to a memory care this week. To Dick and Karen and the Neller family, we hold you in our hearts. A sorrow from Colleen Kimberlin. After well over a year since my position was eliminated, I have not been able to secure employment. As I prepare to send Theo to college, I am feeling very scared and worried. I would greatly appreciate good thoughts and prayers for employment. To Colleen and to Theo, we hold you in our hearts. And a joy from Lynn Heltman. She says, today is Jim Heltman's 86th birthday, even though he doesn't look it. To Jim and Lynn, we hold you in our hearts. And lastly, a gratefulness from Tom Scanlon. Yesterday, Tom face planted on the driveway while gardening. He earned a free trip to Mercy Hospital, where it was determined nothing was broken. Score. To Tom, we hold you in our hearts. As we listen to our musical meditation, we invite anyone who feels moved to do so to come forward, light a candle, place it in the sand, and return to your seat.
Do you hear, oh my friend, in the place where you stand, through the sky, through the land? Do you hear, in the heights on the plain, in the vale on the main, in the sun, in the rain? Do you hear, through the roar, through the rush, through the throng, through the crush? Do you hear in the hush of your soul, hear the cry, feel one still, hear the heart's call to will, hear a sigh's startling trill in your soul, in your soul. From the place where you stand to the outermost strand, do you hear, oh my friend? Do you hear? Please join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Amid the noise and chaos of the world around us, amid the noise and chaos roiling within us, we pause for just this moment to hear or sense the beauty of the natural world among hills and valleys, in the skies, on land, in sun and rain, beauty everywhere. We pause for just this moment to hear or sense our own soul's deepest longing for stillness, for courage, for respite from fear, for something new to emerge. We pause for just this moment to hear or sense our shared dreams, shared songs, shared prayers, shared sighs, as together we persevere. We pause now for a moment of silence. May we always be aware of the beauty around us. May we listen to the deepest cries of our souls. And may we remember that we do not have to be alone. Amen. As I begin, I want to acknowledge that a great many people, including a great many Unitarian Universalists, have rejected Christianity because they were harmed by people purporting to be Christians. There are far too many so-called Christians who have shunned and scorned people and damned them to hell because of their sexual identities or gender expressions, because of their race or religious or ethnic identities, or because of their beliefs. In addition, far too many people have suffered physical or emotional abuse at the hands of people in positions of authority in the church. It is entirely understandable for someone to reject any religion which has been used as a weapon against them, or used as an excuse for abuse, or for denying their humanity and inherent worth. If that's the case for anyone here or anyone listening today, if the Christian church has been the source of trauma for you, I apologize. What you experienced should not have happened, and it is inexcusable. When I speak of Christianity in today's sermon, I am describing my own personal experience, and I am in no way endorsing or excusing what I consider to be the gross misuse of Christian faith to justify harm to individuals or groups. My story, my experiences, my beliefs are entirely my own. I ask only that you take what you need and leave the rest. People who are newcomers to Unitarian Universalism sometimes ask, when did you use "stop being Christian"? In fact, I'm asked that question sometimes by people who have been UUs for a long time. The answer is that Unitarian Universalists never really stopped being Christian. But gradually, especially after the merger of the two denominations in 1961, Unitarian Universalism did stop being exclusively Christian. That is to say, while some UUs still identified as Christians, a growing number did not. In fact, over the last 60 years or so, a plurality of UUs have not identified as Christians. So today we have UUs whose primary theological orientation, if they have one, is Buddhist or Jewish or Hindu or Muslim or pagan, and we have a great many UUs who identify simply as humanists. Humanism, in the largest sense, refers to a philosophy that emphasizes the value and agency of human beings, individually and collectively. Humanists believe that people have the right and responsibility to give meaning and shape to their own lives, as stated by the organization Humanists International. I think it's fair to say that pretty much all UUs believe that every person has the right and responsibility to shape their own life. In fact, that thought is built into our Unitarian Universalist principles and values, which speak of the inherent worth and dignity of every person and the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. But each UU has their own personal faith journey and their own particular theological orientation. And as has been the case since the days of the Puritans, our religious forebears, Unitarians have been non-creedal, meaning they have rejected any required statement of belief as a condition for belonging to the church. But being non-creedal doesn't mean rejecting all religious beliefs. It just means rejecting the notion that everyone must hold the exact same religious beliefs to be members of the church. Being non-creedal means we embrace everyone's right to choose their own beliefs. So when I talk about my own theological identity as a Christian, I am speaking only for myself, and I am in no way trying to proselytize or save you from a life of sin and eternal damnation, nor am I even trying to justify my own theological orientation. I'm not setting you up for an altar call. I'm simply presenting my own experience as an example of what at least one UU believes about Christianity and why. That was a lot of disclaimers, but we're through them now. 206 years ago, in 1819, William Ellery Channing, considered the founder of American Unitarianism by many, delivered a sermon titled Unitarian Christianity. In this sermon, Channing articulated a new vision of Unitarian faith that differed from the Puritan tradition, the so-called standing order of New England churches from which Unitarianism and Congregationalism descended. Among other things, Channing said, "The Bible is a book written for humans in the language of humans whose meaning is sought in the same manner as that of other books." He was, in other words, saying that it is up to us to discern the meaning of scriptures for ourselves, that there is no one correct interpretation or understanding of the Bible. In the same sermon, Channing also pushed back against the doctrine of the divinity of Jesus, against the doctrine of the Trinity, and against the idea of predestination. In case you're wondering how he did all of that in one sermon, it turns out it took about an hour and a half for him to deliver that particular sermon. On the Universalist side of our family tree, 220 years ago in 1805, Hosea Ballou, a Universalist minister, published his treatise on atonement, which rejected the beliefs that human nature is fallen, also known as the doctrine of original sin, rejected that human beings are subject to eternal damnation, also known as the doctrine of the elect and the damned. Ballou believed that God is love, full stop, and that no loving God would ever damn anyone to eternal hell. Furthermore, he pushed back against the idea of substitutionary atonement, the idea that Jesus died for our sins. He wrote that if people imagine a divisive and punishing God whose desire for justice is satisfied by the crucifixion of his own Son, they will model themselves after this God and feel justified in being cruel themselves. Ballou's articulation of universal salvation is where the word universalist comes from. Something that is important to understand about both Channing and Ballou is that they were devout Christians. They had a deep and abiding faith in the wisdom of Jesus and in the life and example of Jesus. But they had problems with some of the doctrines of the Christian church which had developed over the centuries. They weren't rejecting Christianity. They were rejecting certain traditional Christian teachings which they believed had nothing to do with Jesus and nothing to do with their own faith. They were especially critical of many aspects of Calvinism, which was the prevailing Christian theological doctrine of that era. My own identity as a Christian is rooted in beliefs that are very much like those of Channing and Ballou, although I was not raised as a UU. In fact, as many of you know, my father was a United Methodist minister, which made me a Methodist preacher's kid, and Methodism is still in my bones. My own faith journey has been one of growing up in the church, then walking away from the church for almost 20 years, then returning to church as a UU and gradually awakening to the fact that there are still certain key tenets of Christianity which speak to me in deep and profound ways. Specifically, there are three aspects of Christian theology which are particularly important to me that I'd like to talk about. They are, first of all, the idea of grace. Second, the concept of incarnational faith, embodied faith in action. And third, the importance of solidarity with those who are oppressed and marginalized. The concept of grace is at the center of Christian teachings. One of my favorite descriptions of grace comes from Paul Tillich, the great German existential theologian, whose writings have been extremely influential since the middle of the last century. There's a strong connection between Tillich and Unitarian Universalism as one of our most prominent UU theologians, and my personal favorite. James Luther Adams was one of the earliest American translators and interpreters of Tillich's work. Tillich said, "Grace strikes us when year after year the longed-for perfection of life does not appear, when the old compulsions reign within us as they have for decades, when despair destroys all joy and courage. Sometimes at that moment, a wave of light can break into our darkness, and it really is as though a voice were saying, 'You are accepted. You are accepted, accepted by that which is greater than you, and the name of which you do not know. Do not ask for the name now. Perhaps you will find it later. Do not try to do anything now. Perhaps later you will do much. Do not seek for anything. Do not perform anything. Do not intend anything. Simply accept the fact that you are accepted. For me, that sense of profound acceptance is at the very heart of my experience of growing up among United Methodists, whose founder, John Wesley, was perhaps one of the greatest writers and preachers on the subject of grace. At various points in my life, I have been sustained and at times saved by this sense of unconditional love and acceptance. Once you have experienced grace, it never really leaves you. It is something that you come back to again and again and again. I have experienced grace as expressed through the words and actions of family members, friends, colleagues, and sometimes complete strangers. But almost always, I have experienced grace through other people. Which brings me to my second point, which is that Christianity is a religion of incarnation. When I speak of incarnational faith, I mean embodying what you believe. At its heart, Christianity is about incarnating or living into your values and your beliefs. The Christian narrative begins with the birth of a child, and it is through the life and actions of Jesus and other exemplars that moral action is taught. Rather than being primarily about abstract ideas or philosophies, Christianity, at its best, is about orthopraxy, or right action, rather than orthodoxy, or right belief. In this way, Christianity is deeply humanist in that it has to do with the actual lives of actual people, rather than precepts that are separate from human experience. In fact, as I have said before, Jesus, in preaching an incarnational gospel, the idea that right action is more important than right belief, was espousing an essentially humanist teaching. For example, when it is pointed out to Jesus that he is disobeying religious laws regarding the observance of the Sabbath, he says the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. In other words, when the laws, religious or civic laws, are not serving their deeper purpose well or effectively, when they are not serving humankind or are in fact inhumane, then we need to change the laws. In this way, Jesus may have been the first real humanist, arguing that laws, religious or otherwise, need to serve the best interests of humankind rather than being thoughtlessly adhered to and obeyed, regardless of their consequences. This regard for the actual impact of laws and beliefs on human lives leads to my third point, namely the importance of solidarity with those who are oppressed as a basic Christian value. In the Magnificat, the Song of Mary in the book of Luke, a radical message of solidarity is put forth, extolling a God who, in the words of the gospel, has brought down rulers from their thrones, but has lifted up the humble, who has filled the hungry with good things, but sent the rich away empty. Throughout the Gospels, Jesus continues this theme of solidarity with those who are oppressed. The Sermon on the Mount is, at heart, a call to resistance, a call to overturn the violence of empire and to put in its place what has since been called the beloved community, in which love triumphs over fear and hatred, and in which those who have been shunned are not just welcomed, but fully included and celebrated. This message of solidarity is what has inspired some of the best exemplars of the Christian faith in action. People like Dietrich Bonhoeffer and Dorothy Day and Martin Luther King Jr. In fact, without the actions of these and many other Christians, based in deep solidarity with those who are marginalized and oppressed, most of the progressive social movements of the past 200 or 300 years would never have taken place. I freely admit that, like our Unitarian and Universalist forebears, like Channing and Ballou and others, I choose which tenets of Christianity to emphasize and practice and which to leave behind. As was the case during the first several hundred years of Christianity, before it became codified and co-opted as the religion of empire, I believe people should be free to choose their own beliefs. Such a choice of belief has been called heresy by some. Heresy, after all, comes from a Greek word which means choice. And if it is a heresy to choose what I believe, so be it. And so it is that I arrive at my own religious identity as a Unitarian Universalist, as a Christian, and, as some would say, as a heretic. I hope and pray that as each of us goes forward in developing and articulating our own religious identities, we do so not just as a way of rejecting what we don't believe, but as a way of embracing that which we do believe and value. May we practice and experience grace in all we do. May we incarnate our most deeply held values through our actions. And may we always work in solidarity with those who are oppressed and marginalized, and in so doing, build a more just and compassionate community. May it be so. Amen. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. As I've mentioned before, as UUs, we don't necessarily see our souls as being inherently wretched. But I think that all of us, feel wretched or experience wretchedness at some point in our lives. All of us sometimes feel, as if nothing will get better, as if there is no hope, no way forward. There's a lot of that going around in our world today. And yet somehow, amid this wretchedness, grace sometimes breaks through, making a way out of no way, planting seeds of hope in a ground of hopelessness, opening channels for unconditional love and acceptance to flow freely through our lives. As Anne Lamott wrote, grace meets us where we are, but it does not leave us there. It is up to us to open our hearts and our minds to grace so that when grace dances, we too will dance. In that spirit, I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now
Share the Plate beneficiary for the month of July is UU Justice PA, whose mission is to pursue justice by voting, advocating, and making just public policies. UU Justice PA is working for real change for real people. Contributions help sustain the fight for justice for all in Pennsylvania. You can make a gift online on our website or by text at 412-324-3130. We'll be passing our offering baskets for cash and checks in just a moment. If you're writing a check, please make it out to UUCSH and put Share the Plate in the memo line. Please join me in saying the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
announcements before our closing words. If you are newer to Sunnyhill and hoping to make connections, or if you have been out of touch and are looking to reconnect with Sunnyhill, joining a small group is a great way to make meaningful connections within this community. Sunnyhill offers several Soul Matters sharing circles that meet during the church year beginning in September. These groups offer a chance to reflect, listen, and connect in a supportive and respectful space. Sign-ups for that program will begin in August, but you can learn more about it today after the service. If you're curious to learn what sharing circles are about, join us today after the service. Carlos Alvarez and Joe Barker will lead a drop-in sharing circle that will allow potential participants to see if joining a sharing circle group is right for you. No commitment or pre-registration is required for a drop-in circle, so just come to the Oak Room, the last room down the hall there at 11:15 following the service. We're looking forward to answering your questions and sharing experiences about this program. Another thing I wanted to point out, which was in this week's Beat, this is Good Trouble Week in Pittsburgh, which features several events that are going on throughout the week, including a training day on the 19th. And look in the Beat for more information about that, or talk to Pat Murray, who is right here. We know and love Pat, and she likes good trouble, so she's the person to go to. Also, in Doug's absence and in Mary's absence, I'm grateful to have Rini filling in today on piano. Thank you so much, Rini. We'll close with these words. All around us, worlds are dying and new worlds are being born. All around us, life is dying and life is being born. The fruit ripens on the tree, the roots are silently at work in the darkness of the earth against a time when there shall be new lives, fresh blossoms, green fruit. Such is the growing edge. It is the extra breath from the exhausted lung, the one more thing to try when all else has failed, the upward reach of life when weariness closes in upon all endeavor. This is the basis of hope in moments of despair, the incentive to carry on when times are out of joint and humans have lost their reason, the source of confidence when worlds crash and dreams whiten into ash. Look well to the growing edge. Go in peace.